We're going to dive into it. More Guardian stuff. Check out the Ultimate Guardian show that Zach and Bull did this morning. If you don't
we ended up going for almost an hour today.
Guardian stuff today, we're going to talk about an hour worth of Guardians. There's even more on our YouTube page. But we'll start today with a word from FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing. Whether you're about baseball, soccer, golf, you name it, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in the game while your friends are getting sunburnt at the beach. If you're new to FanDuel, we have a offer for you right now. New customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if their first $5 bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to get started. Guys, the Guardians have now lost 10 straight games. Last night's game came down to the wire. They took a 1-0 lead into the ninth inning, and then a pass ball happened. Detroit scored. The final score ended up being 7-2. This current 10-game losing streak is tied for the third longest in franchise history. The longest came in 1931, which was 12 games. They've lost 11 in a row 5 different times, most recently in 2012. And they are now one of 6 teams in Cleveland baseball history to lose 10 consecutive games. Bull.
Yeah, I mean, it's
bad.
2012 was the last Manny Acta year, if I remember, right? Didn't Francona come in 13?
Nastiest work, I think so.
I believe, or was it 12? No, Francona came in 13, I think.
Francona didn't lose 12 in a row, so it had to be 13.
Yeah. So Francona came in 13. In 2012, they were terrible. That was the last Manny Acta year. He got fired. And Sandy Alomar took over at the end of the season, and then they hired Francona. The Guardians have only been, I think, more than 2 games under 500 once since then, and that was in 2013 when they finished 76 and 86. But at least that year, when they finished, 2023, when they finished 76 and 86 and 23, they were only a game out of the wild card at the trade deadline. Like, they were in the mix. I remember Jay losing his mind about trading Savali for Manzardo, and then they, after the All-Star break, they fell apart. This is a really bad baseball team right now, really bad. And I just want to reiterate something I said this morning. We should have, on some level, thought this could possibly happen. And I'll give the example that I gave this morning again for those who weren't there. We always crap on the Browns, deservedly so. Mm-hmm. They usually deserve to be crapped on. Last year, when a lot of people were picking the Browns to do well, I said the Browns were going to be under 500 last year.
You did.
And again, although I love patting myself on the back, I'm not saying it for this reason to pat myself on the back. I said they were going to be under 500 because I thought the way they won was not sustainable. And if you think about what the Guardians did last year, it could have been sustainable on some level had they made moves to improve. But once they didn't, and in fact took their biggest weakness and made it weaker, we should have seen at least the possibility of this coming, and here's why. The Guardians were as good as they were last year. For the main reason they were that good is because they had arguably the greatest bullpen in the modern history of baseball. Certainly one of the best bullpens we've ever seen. That was not possibly sustainable. You knew they would not be lights out. They knew they would not be as lights out as they were. So what's happened? Their bullpen's gone from elite. It's a good bullpen. It's still one of the better bullpens, but it's not elite this year. The problem is it can't overcome the major deficiencies. The lineup, which was barely good enough last year, got worse. And the starting pitching, which you thought would be better, I guess it's been a little better, not significantly. And so we should have seen on some level this coming. And this is the culmination of a decade of failures by this organization. Spread out the blame however you want. There's plenty to go around. From the owner to the front office to those in charge of player acquisition, head of MLB scouting, head of minor league scouting, their head of drafting. It's a and their entire hitting infrastructure. It's a culmination of failures, Jason, by that entire group and their inability to not only develop offensive talent, but acquire offensive talent. And it's all come to a head this year. This is an insanely inept baseball team. It is the worst offensive club in baseball. They're right there with the Rockies and the White Sox. They're right there. And they've been worse than those teams in the last month or so. But they're right there. They have.
Well, you mentioned real quick. I don't mean to cut you off, but
it's fine.
Look at these numbers real quick from the 10-game
show
losing
the numbers
streak.
again.
We had them on the screen before.
Yeah, sorry.
But in this 10-game losing streak, they've scored 15 runs. In 10 games. They've been shut out 5 times.
They scored 6 of those runs in one inning?
Do you know that?
Remember they had a 6-run inning during this losing streak?
Still lost that. And look at the team OPS and team batting average.
Yeah.
You're
Beyond
not
that,
win any games
for the whole season, Zach had a great stat this morning. I don't remember the exact number, but I'll tell you this. If you take out Ramirez and Kwan, the rest of the team, every player that's taken a trip to the plate for the Guardians, the rest of the team has an OPS combined roughly, I don't remember the exact number, of roughly 610 and a batting average of roughly 201. I think it was 201. Which, if you look at it, of roughly 100 and I think there's 158 qualified players that have had enough plate appearances. That would rank 150th of 158. So essentially, the rest of their lineup is the worst player in baseball. All right? They don't play, and I know he hasn't been great lately, but Kyle Manzardo has clearly been their third best offensive player this year. He doesn't play. He sat against a righty on Saturday night.
That's the one, honestly, because we were driving back from West Virginia, and I was listening to the game on satellite radio. And, okay, you want to give Hosey a day off? Can't you do that? Or you want to give him a day off from the field. Can't you do that Sunday? Because you know you're going against Skubal on Sunday. You know Manzardo, and by the way, that's the one lefty. Okay, fine. You want to sit Manzardo against Tarek Skubal?
At this point, they're so out of it, I wouldn't even do that. But okay, I can live with it at being the one day off.
Why would you sit him on Saturday night knowing you're going to sit him on Sunday? So you put Schneeman at third and you DH Hosey on Saturday knowing you're going against Skubal on Sunday and Manzardo. Can't you DH Hosey on Sunday?
I mean, it's insane. Did you see the comments from Stephen Vogt after the Saturday loss?
No, I don't know. So I've seen a couple of different things that he said at a couple of different points.
Well, he goes, we're playing well, we're just not getting the big hit. Is he out of his effing mind?
No, but
I know it's nonsense.
This is a second-year manager who is still trying to figure out what to say publicly. Right. It's sort of like Kevin. You know, Kevin's never going to say anything. He's never going to reveal anything. And I think Vogt's trying to figure out, as a second-year guy with not a ton of experience in this, how Kevin's never going to criticize a player, right? Ever in the media. That's just not his style. I think Vogt's still trying to figure out, when do I come down on these guys publicly? When do I protect them? So I don't pay a ton of attention to what is being said.
I'm not saying he has to say Austin Hedges sucks.
But it sounds ridiculous when you
say we're playing well, we just can't get a big hit. Yeah. I mean, that's absurd.
It sounds ridiculous. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
So the whole, I mean, you can't be. I mean, this is rock bottom, probably.
Oh yeah.
I picked them to come. I picked them to come in fourth, I believe. I think McNuggets is searching for the stats. I picked them to come in fourth. We got to look at ourselves a little bit here. We gave these dudes a pass year after year, and they kept testing you. They kept taking it a little bit further. We all forgave them because they don't have the money. Hey, they do it the most with the least. But they kept creeping. And then it just seems like they got cocky with it. They just don't feel it's a priority to have any hitters. And they put it right in front of your face. You actually have to try to have guys batting 200. And guess what? Where's these
batting 200? Half the guys
is under one something, right? As a team, like you talk about take away Jose Ramirez, you take away Kwan, and you got people sitting up here just asking and begging for you to play young guys. Dude, I looked at the standings. 15 game. That's you're a 5-piece nugget away from being 20 down. Look at this. Look, that is nasty work. And guess what? We've always said it because
the whole division sucks.
Right? It's the AL Central. So the Guardians, they don't need to get any sticks. They don't need to do certain things because guess what? It's the AL Central, and they'll be good in the weakest division in the American League. We always keep telling them, guess what? Don't worry about it because we got great pitching and great bullpens. Well, guess what? If your starting pitching has fallen to either mediocre or below average, and you still got a good bullpen, but people don't remember. There's 4 parts to the game. Fielding, they're terrible. How did you get terrible overnight?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that they're terrible, but they're definitely not good.
I mean,
and as much as Jimenez had become useless offensively, you traded your best defender and didn't replace him. You traded your second best run producer and replaced him with a washed-up Carlos Santana. You're not playing your third best player. It's baffling. And it felt like when they called up Will Wilson yesterday, when who went on the was it
Lane Thomas?
Lane Thomas. It felt like they were just spitting in the fans' face.
like
I know it's not,
but you know why they called up Will Wilson, because you're going against Skubal. I would bet you DeLauder's up today.
Well, why didn't they call him up 2 days ago?
Well, I mean, you're not going to call him up on Sunday when you're going against Skubal.
So I'm saying you could have called him up at the beginning of the series.
But Thomas went on the DL. I mean, listen, I said
they have 5 useless guys in the team.
DeLauder should have been here 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing with that. But I'm saying everyone lost their mind because of Will Wilson yesterday. I'm like, guys,
I know
Skubal. You're not going to bring him up when Skubal starts.
I hear you.
Now,
you're convinced they're going to bring up DeLauder today?
No. I'm not. But
yeah.
I would bet Wilson goes down and DeLauder comes up.
If I was a young dude.
I would bet. I could be wrong. I don't know anything.
I hope you're right.
I could be wrong.
Is this too harsh to say? If I was a young dude, I would be like, I'm not trying to play for the Guardians. I'm just not.
No, you can't. There ain't that many of these jobs, man.
I get that. But it's hard to sit there in the minors and watch everybody play and guys bat won something and they're telling you can't play because of what?
If I'm CJ Kafis, even more than DeLauder, because DeLauder's missed a big part of the season. If I know he's a bigger prospect, but Kafis has killed it all year. For him not, if I'm him, I'm pissed off.
Is he okay? By the way, I saw he bang knees, and I never followed up.
But then he came back the next day.
He did. I never followed up to see.
He had 3 RBIs this weekend.
I mean,
man,
what else can he do?
Nothing.
His numbers are better than DeLauder's too, for what it's worth.
Yeah, and it's like I get it. Everybody's going to say, and this is true. Oh, all these other guys who have come up had good numbers too. Oh, but you've given them a chance.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you give this guy? What's the downside to calling up CJ Kafis?
Well, they will call him up when they trade Santana. And I said,
why are they waiting for?
I said a month ago they should have traded
Just
Santana.
cut Santana. They're not getting anything.
He's
for
been
him.
on your team 3 times.
What are they going to get?
You'll get a double-A player. But this is what they do. This is what they do.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's asset management, and it's part of the reason that they're in this position. But, they were in the ALCS last year, okay?
Yeah.
Let's not forget. They were in the ALCS
I don't care.
last year.
And they flushed it.
You cared at the time.
I know that, but that's not you because they overachieved.
Yep.
And they have at times. We give them a pass when they have a bad season.
It's funny, go move by move on this, right?
Yeah.
Like the Jimenez move. The thing that sucks about the Jimenez move is you have nothing left to show for Francisco Lindor.
0.
Because I don't know. I think you were right. I don't know if Luis Ortiz is ever going to throw another pitch again.
If they prove that those 2 pitches he did that on purpose, he's done.
Okay.
His career's over.
Listen.
It's going to be hard to prove that was incidental.
Not necessarily.
And by the way, I give shout out to Peter Lynn. After he throws those pitches, he's just like, man, I can't. You know what? I don't know why. I was really not trying to throw it outside like that. I'm looking around like, bro, but this looking like nasty work.
But it's funny because if McKenzie doesn't get hurt, do they trade for Ciccone? Do they still trade? I mean, we'll never know.
Yeah.
But I think part of the reason they traded for Naylor, or they traded Naylor for Ciccone, was because, well, I know part of the reason they were not comfortable with their pitching depth. So they made the move for Ortiz, they made the move for Ciccone. But if McKenzie's healthy, do they make the Ciccone move, or do they trade Naylor for? Maybe they do it anyway.
I don't know.
But I just think it's a trickle-down effect, and it really goes back to the inability, the fact that they work with such tight margins and they have no room for error. Is really what it comes back to. That's why they constantly feel obsessed that they have to try and create assets out of nothing. But why you have to trade Naylor and get a pitching prospect back. But because they can't go out and sign anybody.
For 10 years. No, they can, but they've gotten it wrong every time they have.
They're not going to go out and sign Matthew Boyd to that contract.
I'm not even talking about Matthew Boyd. But I'm talking about hitters. I'm talking about hitters. They have not. The reason they're in such a bad spot where it kills them to lose Naylor is because they have nobody to replace him.
And they can't develop one.
They signed Carlos Santana. Every dollar.
You could go back to Josh Bell. The Josh Bell signing was
Mike Zunino.
The last 3 years, every dollar they spent on a free agent for the most part has been a waste.
Yeah.
And they have to shop in the bargain bin. Well, there's some players in the bargain bin that end up doing well. We could go around the league. I'll find you guys in the bargain bin who played well. Stop getting it wrong. How about that? And can we develop one hitter? We've looked at their top 10 prospects for the last couple of years.
15 years.
All of them. None of them can get it done.
It's not even like Ramon Laureano was horrible when he's here.
Yeah.
He's still playing great.
I know.
In Baltimore.
Yeah.
And Josh Bell didn't really do anything after they traded him. I looked. I'm like, what did he? And he really didn't. But it really goes back. I don't know what it is with the way that they're teaching hitting here, but I really think, I've mentioned this a couple times, this winter, I think they really need to take a deep look at how they are teaching hitting and what they need to change on that.
Well, they refuse to go out of the organization.
Go steal somebody.
Infrastructure. Teams steal from them on the pitching side. Why wouldn't they do the same on the hitting side?
I don't know.
They're in an echo chamber right now.
Yes, I agree.
And there's nobody from the outside that ever comes into there, and they can't get it right ever. How good would Yandy Diaz? Maybe look at what the player he's become. A real good, consistent player.
The echo chamber is factual. I mean, they do a great job on one end of the spectrum, but at least you can go outside and say, listen, this is what we're struggling in. Go meet with somebody. Find me somebody with a different approach than you have. Because, listen, the proof is in the pudding. I know you can't spend any money, but just like everything else, we overemphasize it with the NFL. No. But when it comes to Major League Baseball, if you can't go spend money, you have to develop your own guys. You have to be able to develop 2 or 3 of these guys power hitters.
Yeah, and I'm sick. I'm not giving the front office a pass for not spending money, because when they spend money, they get it wrong. They haven't been able to develop. This is it. They've gotten a pass for a decade. They've done a good job, but they have not in recent years, and there's no reason they shouldn't be on the hot seat. Everybody feels safe here.
Yep.
That's the thing with the Guardians.
Safe. Everybody good.
Who knew there's going to be a baseball team with your perfect job security?
100%.
Why should guys not be on the hot seat at some point? To me, they got a year to turn this around. And usually I'm not even that patient. But this, I mean, come on.
Yeah, I'm not. I still think they've done way more right than wrong. I'm not ready to go there.
In the last few years, you think they have? Eventually, the track record from 5 and 10 years ago doesn't hold up anymore.
I mean, they were in the ALCS last year. No, they didn't win the championship, but they were in the ALCS last year. That has to count for something.
All right, but it doesn't count for everything.
No, it doesn't. But, okay. So
they didn't capitalize on it.
No, they didn't.
They made the team worse.
No, they got rid of the Fan Fest. They traded their platinum glove second baseman. They traded one of their best hitters in the lineup. Yeah. I totally agree.
Yeah.
But I've said it 100 times. If you look at the moves in the vacuum, I get why they did it. But, yeah, of course they should have spent more. I'm not going to kill him for – Jimenez sucks, guys. Like, the mistake they made was giving him the contract.
Right.
It wasn't trading him.
And that's it. But we celebrate them getting rid of his contract that they signed. Same thing for Miles Straw that they signed. They've shown – cluelessness when it comes to hitting.
But when they signed the Jimenez contract, we celebrated.
But that's
because it looked like they got it right, and then it turns out they didn't.
No, I was mad they didn't do nothing about the Lindor contract. We go back to that. Jimenez is a derivative of not spending money on Lindor. He's a superstar.
Right.
They told you to enjoy him while he's here.
Yeah,
and that's a derivative.
The owner gets no pass because he should be spending more.
Pass. Yeah,
and the front office that has barely been criticized for 15 years, and I have never, I've criticized them, but not much until the last year or so, until it's really this year. And it's just like, to me, they stunk in 23. They had, and they overachieved last year, and it was not sustainable. And yeah, maybe they will, because they're the Guardians. Maybe they'll bounce back next year. We'll see. They've obviously done it before plenty of times. But I don't know. I don't feel good about the direction of this team. I don't know how anybody could.
It's bad right now. It feels really, really bad because you look around and you go, I mean, and for as much as you scream, not you personally, just all of us, as much as we scream for DeLauder and Kafis, why would you have any confidence at all that any prospect they call up would be any good?
No.
Because none of them have been to this point.
None of them.
So why suddenly do we feel like Chase DeLauder is going to save them?
No, I don't think he's going to save them at all.
It's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
But Rocchio, Arias, Naylor,
Nolan Jones.
Yeah. Rodriguez, if you want, he's not in that category, but if you want outside of
Angel Martinez,
SpongeBob,
outside of Kwan,
Oscar Gonzalez,
who have they developed and
brought
up?
The answer is nobody. We went through it, Jason. I'm not sure if you were on the show that day. I know, Bull, you were hosting. We went through the last 10 years essentially and looked at their top 10 hitters and who had panned out and who didn't.
Nobody.
The answer was nobody.
So now we're screaming about Kafis and DeLauder.
Valera, where is he at? Did he ever play?
He never even made it up.
Never even got on the stage.
Still in the organization.
I do want to ask you guys a question though. and I know it's hard to find positives and silver linings during this 10-game losing streak, but the starting pitching against Detroit was really good. They got really good performances from Ciccone, from Logan Allen, and Gavin Williams. If you add up all three of their starts together, 18 innings pitched, 3 runs, 18 strikeouts, just 7 walks, and a whip sub-1. It is hard to believe that back-to-back-to-back performances from your starting pitchers with lines like that result in a sweep.
They should have swept them. They could have swept the Tigers.
That's how bad the offense has been. And I just want to, and I want to ask, and whoever wants to answer. Skubal was incredible last night for Detroit, just like he's been every time he pitches. Gavin Williams went toe-for-toe with him, and that's a guy that we've been waiting on to kind of have.
Yeah, but he's inconsistent. He has one great start,
that means
one
next
bad start.
He's going to have a bad start because that's how he's done. But it was nice to see it. I know the game sucked, and how they lost was demoralizing. The starting pitching deserves at least 60 seconds of attention for the way they performed this weekend.
Go ahead. Anybody got anything?
I'm gonna just say this. This is starting to sound like when we come in here on Loser Mondays, when we talk about the Browns and how well the defense played.
Yeah, right.
Yes. And gee, do I always put a topic in there?
Yes, you always do.
I mean, the pitching's been okay. It's been fine. I mean, the starting rotation's been fine. But, Williams has been inconsistent. Bybee hasn't pitched particularly well.
No.
Williams did great. He did a great job yesterday. And Ciccone, for the most part, his last start was bad. But, he's mostly been good. And am I optimistic about, do I like their rotation? Sure, but they don't have an ace. Bybee's not an ace. Gavin Williams not an ace. They might be. They both have potential, but they haven't shown it yet.
I was going to ask you,
Shane Bieber,
are you closing the door on that?
On those guys being aces?
Yeah.
No, I'm not shutting the door at all. I think they're both capable, but neither has been able to show the consistency that makes you think they're definitely an ace. And again, now you're going to lose Bieber at the end of this year. Who knows what he's going to do?
He may never throw another pitch for him.
That's possible.
Why would you hold on to him at this point?
Yeah. Well,
trade him
the thing is, can you get anything for him?
Yeah, I mean,
if he doesn't pitch before August 1st,
I don't see how he pitches before August 1st.
Probably won't
in the majors.
I mean,
he hasn't even restarted his rehab assignment yet.
I proposed a trade over the weekend involving the Cubs and Guardians, and my friend Mike Ferrin from MLB Radio said it was a trade for Clase and Bieber, and he's like, yeah, the Cubs wouldn't give up that much because Bieber has no value right now, or very little value.
What was the proposal?
I had the Guardians getting Moises Ballesteros, who's their top catching prospect. Now, he's not – the only problem with that, and I should have really factored that in, is he's not going to be a catcher long-term because of his body type. He's kind of built like Alejandro Kirk.
Is he a future first baseman?
He could be. He's like more of like a first baseman DH, so probably he wasn't the right guy. He's a circle, yeah. Good, hell of a hitter. Like, doesn't strike out, really good hitter. And then
By the way, real quick, there should be more Alejandro Kirk-shaped guys in baseball.
Absolutely. And this guy is. He'll be in the big leagues, whether it's with the Cubs or somebody else. He'll be in the big leagues late this year or by next year. You'll see. I mean, he's a portly fella. And then I suggested that the Cubs have another top 50 or top 100 prospect named Owen Cassie, who's a big power hitter, and he's an outfielder. And again, you don't know if they're going to pan out, just like everything else. But I was saying those two guys, and then those guys are both top 100 prospects in the majors. The Cubs have 6. I was saying those two guys, and then, guys a little further down the organization, like another two guys.
You couldn't get 2 top 100 guys for Clase by himself?
I was saying Clase and Bieber.
I know, but I'm just saying Clase by himself, would it net you 2 top 100 guys?
It might. It might, but I don't know. I'm not sure. Mike Ferrin, who knows the
prospect.
Sport well, knows the. He said you were asking for too much.
Teams clutch to their top prospects now more than ever.
Yeah. The Cubs are going to be a desperate team though, because they're probably going to lose Kyle Tucker at the end of the year, which they shouldn't, but they will. And they want to win bad this year. Their GM's on the last year of his contract. When you trade for Kyle Tucker with 1 year left and you give up your second best prospect to get him at the beginning of the year.
So,
that's a we're all in.
So they didn't up the ante on these prospects now, huh? Like it's been
the case for a couple of years. Teams do not want to trade their top guys.
Is it like? I mean, obviously draft picks in the NFL, people go crazy over those, but they use those as lottery tickets. But so you're saying it's more difficult now to like flip some of these top guys? Because I remember before, it was like, hey, people was going around picking like, yeah, let me get the number 3 dude in your organization. Let me get the number 4.
I mean, there are occasional overpays where you're like, where did that come from? The Kikuchi trade last year, I forget now who was involved in the Kikuchi trade? Because it was like, wow, that seems like a lot.
Well, they
to give
seem
up.
like overpays. You know, one of those guys they got, I think, was Joey Loperfido.
Yeah,
who has done nothing.
He just got called up yesterday.
Yeah,
he's back up. So occasionally, I mean, a lot.
But
of
everybody made a big deal when the Cubs traded Gleyber Torres to get Aroldis Chapman. I would have done that every day of the week. And obviously, I'm a big Gleyber Torres guy, but he's not a Hall of Famer. He's a nice player.
And I would say teams have changed their views even since then. That was 16, right? That was 2016.
And the Guardians, all the guys traded for Andrew Miller did nothing.
Yeah, they did. They didn't pan out. But a lot. I mean, it comes down to organizational risk. Yeah. Some teams would rather take 1 or 2, and the Guardians give me 3 or 4. Give me your 6, 8, 12, and 14 guys.
Yeah.
Rather than put all your chips on one guy.
By the way, you know who's been pitching great out of the Cubs bullpen this year? Drew Pomerantz.
Really? Wow. What a name!
He just gave up his first run of the year Saturday.
Wow.
Damn.
Former first-round pick of. I mean, he's been around for 15 years.
Yeah,
probably.
He's become a good reliever for them.